Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting. This is our third week on our homework assignment marathon, where we all kind of said practice is king. And it is about practicing. It really is. Every painting that you do in class and everything that you do in this space is practicing, and then everything you do at home is practicing. Now I'm giving you homework assignments that for a lot of people are like, why are you giving us these shitty homework assignments? And because what I'm after with you guys is that it's not about the objects, it's about how you put them together and how you light them up. And that requires practice. And you guys spend a lot of time practicing that. But I still see issues with your homework assignments, and you still run into problems. Repetition is very important. In fact, a lot of people who watch my videos watch them and then watch them again and watch them again. Because hearing the same message over and over and over again, you pick up things. And then all of a sudden you go, oh. And sometimes we go through things and you guys don't get anything out of it. And then all of a sudden one painting comes up and somebody in the classroom like Linnea go, that's it. All I needed was that example. When you think we have one student and they do 5 paintings, that's all we have. And so when people sign up for my workshops, they go, oh, Stefan, you know, how many people do you have in your workshop? And I said, oh, 15 to 20. Sometimes we've gone 27. We've had 27 in our workshop. They go, oh, that's too much, you can't spend any time. And I go, no, actually, the more you have in a workshop, the better. Because we take you out to a spot, and there I am in my workshops, which are different than a lot of painting workshops, where you just kind of follow the teacher and follow along. I throw you out there, and you have some idea of what I'm looking for, but not all of the idea. And then imagine 15 or 20 people coming back to the studio and have a critique, which is really where the workshop excels. And you don't have one opinion, but you have 15. Times 8 or 10 a day, or a weekend, that's a lot of paintings that you go through. A lot of ideas. The whole idea behind the Power to Create class, which is kind of what you guys are in, that you don't know it that you're in, but you're in. The Power to Create class, we have 5 paintings a week for the students to work on. And why is that? Because it's the Power to Create class. If I tell you to go home and paint an orange, you could paint an orange. If I tell you to do 2 of them, you could probably come up with 1 peeled and 1 not. If I asked you to do 5, you'd say, well, I can slice 1, but now you have 2 more. What are you going to do with those other 2? And you can eat them. Yes. So the thing is, you don't even start creating until you finish 3 of those orange paintings. So you actually start thinking out of the box. And when you go through the internet, which is great now, because when we first started the Power to Create class, we didn't really have an internet. Not one that's organized like it is now. And you put in orange paintings by artists, you sit there and you go, where do these people get these ideas? And the key to it is that they have been exposed to bigger options, more options. And how do you get that? By really studying something. And when I go to like the national parks to paint, I let everybody have a day to go and paint Half Dome and El Capitan, because you're in Yosemite, right? And so you spend 2 days painting all of the park paintings, all of the vistas, all the stuff you could buy a postcard for. Because, I mean, you can't go to Yosemite and not come back with a Half Dome painting. That would be ridiculous, right? So you have to do, and I do the same thing. When I used to go to Yosemite at Christmas time, I would go there and I wouldn't paint like a potted plant with snow on it. I would paint half dome because I'm there at Christmas time. You know, I made the effort to get to Yosemite. I'm not going to paint a tree, I'm going to paint Yosemite. So we have to get that out of our way. But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily good paintings. Your paintings will actually look more like postcards. Just like when I ask you to paint something like our cosmetics, or when we're talking about other objects that we're painting, they become thing paintings. It isn't until you've done 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 20, even of the same theme, that you start thinking, how can I switch this up? And all of a sudden you go into Google and you start seeing how awesome people start thinking. And you go, wow, I wish I had that kind. You know, and one of the biggest things I hear from people is that I'm not creative that way. You know, I can't be an artist. I don't think that way. But it's because you never really were pushed to. If somebody said, here, paint pink, you would just paint something pink. You wouldn't look at all the hundreds of pinks that are available that you could use. And then there are also pinks that are more orange. And maybe instead of going pink, maybe you go more orange. Now, some of you, if I asked you to paint something orange, you'd go, oh, screw it, I'm going to paint it blue just because he said orange. And, you know, so, but the thing is, you get that idea, your identity, by practicing what's out there. And this whole idea behind doing our homework assignments is if you choose to start painting differently, if you choose to start painting out of the box, if you choose to take your painting to the next level, you kind of have to know some of the rules. You kind of have to know how to highlight things and shadow things. Because sometimes when you're veering out from painting what you see into a realm of creativity, sometimes you get an idea and it's not set up, and you have to be able to deal with it. And that's one of the things that when I'm teaching you guys about temperature and composition and all these things, that's eventually where I'm trying to get you to get to, is being able to powerfully create something out of your imagination so that you're completely unbound. So like in the Power to Create class, I'll ask, okay, I want you to paint donuts. So all of you have an idea of donuts. And then we all get together and everybody looks at their donut painting. And in that group, all of a sudden, there's one donut that actually is hanging on a string, levitated. And the little donut hole is making a shadow on the wall. How clever. And underneath that's a little mouse trying to reach up for the donut, right? Now it's a donut painting with more added to it. And you're not just stuck with, oh, a donut. You start creating a story. And then once I open that possibility up for you, just in this conversation, you start thinking, oh God, we could take that further. It just automatically do. But we don't give ourselves permission to step into that realm. And so that's why I have you practice, 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 practice. Same subject over and over and over again. Hopefully we get different ideas. But ultimately, regardless of what the things are that you do with it, it is how you light it. It is how you bring contrast and shadow. That is crucial. Remember that anything you paint is basically a stage. And in that stage walks Barbra Streisand. So when she walks out on stage, she glows and glimmers. She's got a sheen to her and people see her on the stage. And when she walks out, you don't look at anything else. That's what you want to do with your paintings. They got to like shine like Barbara. When in doubt, paint like Barbara. Some of the homework assignments that I've seen so far, they're thing paintings. I've sat down on a couple of them and said, here, this is what was missing. And put that in. It's always about lights and darks, and it doesn't matter the objects. So I have a student right now, and I told you about him right now. He's working on doing 30 paintings in January, one a day. And he's kept his schedule, blown me away. In the process of doing this, he's one of my coaching students, so he texts me as he's growing. He goes, oh my God, I actually see an opening where I can actually become a professional artist. And so he was asking me about getting business licenses and all this. I said, just stay with your painting. Let's get that, you know. So he's going crazy thinking, oh, you know, I see freedom, I want to do this. In the process of doing that, he's practicing, 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 practicing. And I told him, I said, it doesn't matter what you paint as long as you get the effects right, as long as you get lights and shadows. And I said to him, I said, you could go into your bathroom and sit down on your bathtub and paint the toilet. And if it's done well, it's extraordinary. It doesn't matter. It's just a toilet. But the thing is, what a toilet. And so you know what he did? His next painting was a toilet. And he sat in his bathroom and he had the toilet tissue and stuff like that. And he was just blown away. He did it awesome. Just like awesome. So it doesn't matter what the subject is. I told you to do a junk drawer. I have no idea. I haven't even looked at your paintings. I can't even imagine what we're going to be looking at. But the thing is, I'm looking for lighting effects. I'm looking for shadows and transitions. I'm looking for Barbra Streisand. If these paintings are done well, they will be the ones hanging in a gallery that people will walk all the way across to go take a look. You know, a lot of times when people go into galleries, they open up the door and they look in. And you've done this too yourselves, I know it. And you scan and go, oh no, I'm not going in here. Especially when the owner's sitting there on a chair waiting for you, the little hawk.
Would he relieve you of your money?
Yeah, you know he's like a car salesman, right? And then you're kind of thinking to yourself, should I tell him I'm an artist or not? And so a lot of you don't tell him you're an artist because you want to get a free brochure. And sometimes if you tell him you're an artist, you don't get any tour or anything, right? They'll leave you alone. But the thing is, so when you look into a gallery and all the paintings are just kind of like wallpaper, and in the far corner there's a light that shimmers. You'll actually step into the gallery, walk across the entire gallery straight to that painting because it interests you. And why is that? Because we're all just like ravens and crows. We like shiny things. And we like to see the effect of light. But the reality is, it's a fake light. It's not real. We have a really hard thing to do to try to convince our viewer that we're actually looking at light. Because all we have is colored mud and a piece of cloth. That's all we have to work with. Colored mud and a piece of cloth. And what we're doing is we're tricking the mind to tell it, hey, this is a real thing. But if you paint a tree as realistic as you paint it, and you put it down on the ground, a dog's not going to sit down and pee on the tree. Because he's smart enough to know that that tree ain't real. That's actually a piece of canvas in a frame that's blocking his view. Yeah. If he's going to pee on it, he's going to pee on it because there's a frame there, not because your painting looks like a tree. So we're creating the illusion of what's there to make it real, and then we want to create it better than anyone else. Because right now we're living in a time when there's a lot of competition. A lot of the people who call me for coaching, they are looking for an edge up. They're looking for what's missing in their painting to get it out there, to make it pop. They're in galleries, but they can't understand why people aren't looking at their painting. And it's because people look into the gallery looking to see what pops. Because they don't understand how to work with light. Light is what turns us on. When we travel down the road, it's the lighting effect that causes us to say, hey, Harold, look at that sunset, look at that light. It's always that moment of light. You don't sit there and go, hey, look at that shadow, that's so cool. Unless there's really a strong lighting effect, then it's still about the light. The shadow is the cause of that. Even if you're painting dogs, we've got to watch out that we don't get into just painting portraits of dogs or people. You know, why do we love Rembrandt? I mean, for the most part, people don't want portraits of people that they don't know. Why? Because they're people they don't know. Why would you want a stranger on your wall? But would you turn down a Rembrandt? No, you wouldn't. Why? You don't know that person. Because the lighting effect in that painting makes you cry. The Sargent the same way. His technique on how he pushes paint around makes that painting better than it being a portrait. In fact, Sargent's paintings were not really liked by their clients because it didn't look like them. But his emphasis wasn't on that. And when it was, he usually had something to say about the client. And then they didn't like that either because he didn't like the clients. So anyway, ultimately it's the thing you want to say. And when I run into issues of people calling me, I go, so what is it that you want to say? And they go, I don't know, I'm not that deep. I don't have, poetry is my background. I don't have a liberal arts foundation to like go, I'm just painting. And I go, yeah, but what makes you stop and look at something? And they think about it and they go, it's the light. And I said, if you don't have light in your painting, you're not going to have people look. And in a day when there's so much competition, there's so much stuff on YouTube showing you how to paint. Really, a lot of it is a waste of time. Oh, look, he used a fan brush to do a tree. Oh, he's using blue and orange to make a gray so he can make a rock. Wow. Genius. They're not giving you any kind of insights. They're not going to change the way you paint. You'd be better off setting a rock down on a table and painting that from life and waste that time watching videos. And I'm somebody who has a television show that shows people how to paint. In fact, a lot of people on YouTube go, when are we going to see you paint? And I go, when you come to one of my workshops. Maybe you'll see me paint. But that's not what's important. What's really important is that you leave with information. And that's one reason why people like working with me, is that I actually give tangible things. People who call up first time for coaching, they're like blown away the first week. They're like, nobody's ever told me these things. And I've been taking lessons for years. And it's because I'm teaching concepts. How does the brain work? Not whether or not it's a pretty picture or not. If you want pretty pictures, then cut out calendars and put them in frames. But if you want to create a painting that pops, practice is the way you're going to do it. And in order to get good at that, you have to practice it over and over and over again, just like you do a musical instrument. You're not going to learn how to play a musical instrument if you keep it in the case. And I know that, because my mom decided that she wanted me to play the saxophone. And for the most part, that saxophone sat in the case. I never learned it. I still don't know it. But I play a pretty mean accordion. Always best to paint from life. First choice. Second choice, work from your own photos. But not all the time are you going to have great photos. Third, look for other people's photos and see where you can get inspired. And if, let's say you're going to paint from a Yosemite photo that you've taken, and you had the Grand Canyon stuff, remember? And so you said, oh, I love this. And I go, well, you spent too much time at the restaurant in the morning. You didn't get out at 4 a.m. You know, so now it's a 12 o'clock shot. It's boring, right? So you could find a spot that you like, that you shot, and then go onto the internet and find photographers that got up in the morning and went breakfast and took some sunrise pictures. And you could say, how can I take those colors, those ideas, and put them into my painting? Again, always looking for the center focal point. The way that I teach people is that you can have a pretty bland photograph, and we can infuse it with lights and shadows if you know what you're doing. And we could take ordinary and make it extraordinary. Yeah. So it all depends on, but you have to know how to do that. Expanded instructional DVDs that feature an hour-long demonstration of today's painting and other paintings in the series are available at the Grandview by calling 1-800-511-1337. Join us on our website, thegrandview.org, and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting, along with a free diagram of today's subject. Is funded in part by
paintingfromnature.com, a website for artists seeking inspiration, advice, and knowledge to master painting from nature. paintingfromnature.com.